honestly not a lot of owners that post videos related to this car. And so I kind of want to give you my perspective on the 355, why I like it, and my maintenance history on it as well. So my love for the 355 started back when I was a kid. Need for Speed 2 came out. You could choose the McLaren F1, Ferrari F50, and a load of just other like concept cars. Well, they had a Ferrari 355 on there, and I loved driving that car. And I also grew up in kind of like just a regular neighborhood, but it just so happened one of the neighbors that lived there had a bunch of Ferraris. And he also raced for Ferrari in the 355 Challenge Series. So he would drive his 355 up and down our road, and I just was like, I want to have that car. And so life went on, and all of a sudden, you know, back 7 years ago, I was like, why not buy one? So the 355 came out in 1995. I think they started production in 94, and they went through 99. So you got to think, at that time, current cars were out were the C4 Corvette, the fourth gen Camaros were out, and you know, most cars had around 300 horsepower. This one came out with 375, so it was significantly faster than some of the other regular sports cars at that time. But then when you think in modern terms, I mean, I think like a Kia Stinger has as much horsepower now. So it is not crazy fast, but I've had a lot of crazy fast cars. Z06, a Lingenfelter CTS-V. I currently own a W212 E63. All of these 600 horsepower cars. And one thing I like and hate about them at the same time is they are scary fast. In other words, you can get yourself into some trouble, and if anytime you want to play around, you can't hit the gas more than 4 seconds, otherwise you're going more than 100 miles an hour. So one thing I love about the 355 is it feels fast without being very fast. In other words, it is fun fast instead of scary fast. So you can rip through first, second, third, fourth, and be at like highway speeds. Fun fast. I love it. That's 70 miles an hour right there. Well, if you're in the CTS-V, I'd be over 140 miles an hour. So there is an element of, if you want to have fun in the car, the 355 is an excellent car for that choice. The whole driver's experience is awesome. You get good sound. Gated shifter that's just a blast to drive. It's surprisingly easy to shift. The steering, like they say, is light. It does feel kind of like a go-kart. The sound. So this car is equipped with a Capristo Sound 3 on there. While it might not be as fast as a lot of modern supercars, it still is a great racing car as well. I mean, these cars were created for the Ferrari Challenge Series. I've taken mine to the track quite a few times. My first car, I just wanted to poke around and look at how these were made, how the systems work. I remember just putting my car on jack stands and like sitting underneath it and staring at stuff and trying to figure out how they work. I love that stuff. I've done that with like all my cars. So I was very curious to see how a Ferrari was constructed. And there are some very well engineered parts to the car. You know, I mean, the motor and the way the car's designed is very well engineered. The actual manufacturing is a little bit more crude. It's not ghetto or anything like that, but I'm just saying that, like, you know, they need a part there, they weld it together. If they need something done, they drill it out, put something there. So it's very simple when you think about working on these, because everything's just bolts. You know, I'm not trying to oversimplify it, but it's righty-tighty, lefty-loosey, and so everything on these is pretty easy. Like I said in the other video, you can go to sites like Ferrari Chat, and there's members there that have done everything you can think of to these cars.
The craziest thing about owning these is like your door level is at the top of his tire.
Okay, so let me explain DIY. The reason I work on these cars myself is a lot more than just saving money. That's just a small perk of it. I actually enjoy it. I've been working on cars since I was 16 years old when my first car broke. But now, more practically, there's no dealers where I live. There's not any shops where I live. And so, if I want to fix something, I got to do it myself. But more importantly, I just enjoy it. I really like taking them apart and putting them back together. It gives me a sense of satisfaction. And so for a DIY car, this is the perfect car. There's always something that you got to probably fiddle with to make it work. So then we get to the elephant in the room. What everybody talks about is maintenance. You may have seen my previous video where I said I've owned this car for 7 years, and all the failures on it have only added up to about $200, and that is true.
I know before I bought the 355, I watched a bunch of YouTube videos and read some reviews thinking, should I get this car? Is the maintenance really as bad as they say? And like I said in the driving portion of this video, people like to say things to get views. Reviewers like to have that clickbait, like the Achilles heel of the 355. So is maintenance that bad? I've already told you about how much stuff has broken on this. So what about the other factor, the maintenance? How much money have I spent actually just maintaining this, not on breakdowns? So the engine out cost me about $1,800 to do it myself. That's because I replaced everything I could possibly think of while I was in there. The water pump, the engine mounts, a bunch of the other seals, a couple bearings. Of course, you do all the filters, you do plugs. You want to do everything preventative during that service just to make it easy so you have a good next couple miles. And how often do you do that? So originally Ferrari says you do that service every 3 years or 30,000 miles. Well, nobody puts 30,000 miles on these a year. Well, most people are average, 2, 5, maybe 8,000 miles a year tops. And so people have stretched that to 5, even 7 years and said that is the new normal. So if you factor in that you do it every 5 years, spending $2,000 every 5 years is not that big of a deal. I've spent more on my wife's Acadia sometimes than on this car doing maintenance. Every year you do an oil change. It does take 10 quarts. You can buy the actual Ferrari recommended oil at Amazon, and it's I want to say it's like $60 for the 10 quarts. And then the filter you get from Ricambi, and it's like $50. Another huge thing you can do for maintenance is simply to drive these. Don't let them sitting for a long time. It's a pretty common understanding that the more you drive these, the less failures you're going to have. If you let them sit, just with any car, things are going to go bad. Batteries are going to die, window motors might go bad, you might develop some starting issues or whatever just from motors sitting around not being used. So when you drive these things as compared to letting them sit, they will tend to be more reliable for you. I'm not talking about you have to put 20,000 miles on it a year, but drive it once a week and you're good. All right, so to address the YouTubers that always talk about the Achilles heels and all the maintenance issues, that as far as the F1 system reliability, there's a lot of little kind of quirks. If the trunk is popped or the switch comes unplugged in there, it won't shift. If you have your door open, it won't shift. And people kind of misunderstood a lot of these and the functions of it, and it gets a bad rap. But a lot of the issues are well documented and they're easily remedied. And a lot of the parts now are completely available and you can find them anywhere. Just a note, if you're trying to decide between an F1 and a gated car, I would actually recommend the F1 car, and there's a couple reasons. It probably will be worth a lot more money someday. Right now it's not, and you can get one on the cheap. 2, an F1 car can be easily converted to a gated car. You cannot go the other way around. This car, as you might have seen in my other videos, used to be a F1 paddle shift car. It was converted to a gated shifter car. I can convert it in a weekend back. So if I want to go to a track day, I can do that. Okay, 2, we already talked about the belt service, so I won't go over that. So what about the manifolds? These came with headers, and they notoriously warp and melt. And I think Ferrari may have made them just out of too thin metal. And so most of them had them replaced. This one's both got replaced about 25,000 miles. I think Ferrari, after about a decade of replacing headers, is probably like, why are we replacing so many headers? And I think they revised them. Now, I may be wrong, but there are a ton of other options. You can do Fab Speed, and a couple other companies make aftermarket headers for these, and some of them claim power upgrades. So it's an upgrade, and the aftermarket ones aren't that bad, $2 to $3 grand, and you're done. The next thing you might hear about is like valve guides. This is a 99, and they have pretty much been completely exempt of the valve guide issue. It mostly seemed like the early ones got those issues, especially the 95s and 96s. They had different kind of metal valve guides that would wear out and eventually cause compression issues, and you'd have to get them replaced. So if you buy an early one, make sure you probably do get one with new valve guides. That is one kind of thing that I didn't want to be doing, is tearing apart motors. But the later years, especially the 99s, didn't have that issue at all. I've not seen one documented case of a valve guide failure in the new ones.
Hey, thanks for watching, guys. I hope you appreciated the different perspective that you maybe got in this video, as opposed to the videos that are either posted by a dealer trying to sell you the car and or a professional YouTuber. And make sure you like and subscribe, because anything I do to this car in the future, any maintenance, including the engine out that I'll be doing later on this year, I will film and put on this YouTube channel. So if you don't want to miss those videos, just hit that like button and subscribe. Thanks, guys.